Yeah, I can't wait. Well, if I can't get on a plane and go to Italy, this is the best other way to do it. Got to go. I'm going to have Tuscan drinks with my friends. See ya. Bye. Hey, everyone. Oh, cancel. Oh, no. I nearly, whoops. Nearly deleted everything off my phone with my face. How is everybody today? Looking forward to a little bit of Tuscany? Oh, gosh, you're all chatting already. Right. Isn't it funny? What is cork, Alison? I've got my special fancy corkscrew because I don't often get to pull a cork out of a bottle anymore. Shell, I like your Japanese. Oh, my goodness, everyone's, whoa, what have I missed? What have I missed? Hello, Alison. Hello, Cotty and John. Yum, delicious. Shell, you can talk to us in Japanese if you like, but my Japanese is a lot worse than my Italian, so that might not work so well. Hello, Jeff. How are you? A county in Ireland, Tuscany, Cork. Yeah, funny one, Keely. Very good. Got there eventually. I think one of these days, Anne-Marie, we will actually go to Tuscany. It will be lovely. When I see you, Peter and Karen. Very good to see you. Hello, Kay. Vegan lasagna, delicious. Garlic bread with too much garlic. Maybe put the garlic bread a little bit aside while you're tasting the wine and then enjoy it, because that can really kind of take over, can't it? But that sounds delicious. Angela, not duck lasagna. Oh well, I did think that those recipes looked amazing, but also quite a lot of work. So I will make them one day, but not today. Thank you, Jill. I've just had a delivery of deliciousness. Thank you, Jill. I've got some salami from Chianina. So this is from my friends Daniela and Sam's Gippsland farm. They grow the special Tuscan cows, the Chianina beef, and that's their salami. And Jill's also done me a lovely little plate with some olives and some tomatoes. So thank you, Jill. I better get this wine open to go with it. Right, I've got to let things keep rolling. Beef and I can never say that word properly. Nigella bolognese. That sounds delicious, Craig. Hello, Paul and Roz. Hello, Emily. Hello, ciao, Michael. Ciao. And that sounds lovely. Saffron cheese and beef stroganoff to come. Fantastic. I'm glad there's a few lasagnas out there. Renee, Nigel, hi. Sorry, Nigel. I keep calling you Renee because I just read the names. Everyone knows that I'm hopeless with names, but I didn't know that was you, Nigel. Thank you, Nigel. It's not my birthday until Saturday, but yes, this is my birthday week in lockdown. Hurrah. Woo. But, that's okay. I got a plant already. Thank you for my beautiful birthday plant. And I also got a rose. Thank you for my beautiful birthday rose. You know who you are. Zach, Jack and Hannah, how you doing? Emily, Venetian duck ragu. Oh, good work. Jeff, burgers. No, don't be sorry, but sorry. I thought you'd turned into a robot for a minute there. Hello, the McFalls are back. Hello, Daryl and Sue. How you going? Joan, thank you. Lovely to see you. You still in self-isolation. That's very sad. Hello, Deb and Rob. Oh, here we go. All right, let's get some wine in our glasses because it's been a big week and it's going to be another big week and many big weeks to come. So, Poggerino Chianti Classico. We've got the 2019 vintage. Vendemmia is just Italian for vintage. And this is a very special wine for me, and I'll tell you all the stories. I did tell you I'd be wearing my Italian leather jacket that I bought in Florence on that very first trip that I went on a wine trip to Italy with my friends Michael and Virginia, Trimbath and Taylor. Hello, Michael and Nikki. How lovely to see you. Has been a while, but you're always welcome. Thanks, Shell. Oh, wow. So, bottle opener. This also, I've actually dredged together a whole lot of lovely wine memories from my friendship with Michael and Virginia. I also sent them the link, so I don't know if they're watching, but if they are, hello, Michael. Hello, Virginia. If you do send this also to the Lanzas. Hello, Piero. Lovely to see you from across the sea. And Benedetta, I'll be talking all about you and your story in just a minute, but I need to get some wine in the glass first. And Matt Paul, if you're there as well, hello. So this little bottle opener is a very fancy bottle opener from La Guiole that Michael and Virginia bought me as a present a long time ago for house sitting their house, I believe. I worked for Michael and Virginia for a while there. And they still, Trembath and Taylor as a company, Virginia's retired, but Michael and Matt are still importing beautiful Italian wines and keeping us all interested in these beautiful wines. So the corkscrew work, the cork is in good condition, beautiful little cork. In Italy, it's harder to use screw cap because the local laws don't allow it for a lot of wines, even if people wanted to. But let's get some of this in the glass. So I love this label. Benedetta designed the label, and back in 1998, I think it was, that I was working. I need a big glass all the way up to the Moorooduc Estate. Salute. Chin chin, everyone. Oh, good to see you back, Michael and Nikki. Oh, I thought that you had stayed with Piero and Benedetta, and I was hoping to go and see them last year. I'm still toying with the idea that it might be possible next year, but who knows? Anyway, in the meantime, we can travel to Tuscany via the wine in our glass. So let me just have a little smell, a little sip, and then we'll continue our conversation. Oh, happy birthday to Anne's mum as well. Margaret, happy birthday. Oh, Christy and Chris, hello, how are you? Lovely to see you. So, Nigel, everyone needs to let this wine open up. Just ignore the clicking noise. It's Dad trying to get the cat through the door. Should have gone home to my house, I think. So Italian wine is very different from Australian wine. Craig, I think, pointed that out. I'm going to have to take my jacket off because it's a bit warm in here. Dad's got the fire going for me. And it's been a really beautiful day today. So I'm a bit warm. That's okay. Got the fire roaring in the background. Got the poodles around me. It's all good. Got my salami. Got my wine. It's all good. Okay, let's go. It is smooth. It's a beautiful wine. So let me tell you some stories about this wine as it opens up in the glass. I think this is the perfect shaped glass to drink it in as well. We didn't talk about that because I was too busy trying to get it in the glass. This glass actually, the Riedel people call this the Sangiovese glass. So we're drinking Sangiovese, and so yeah, very easy. Works really well in that sort of shaped glass. Okay, so where do I start? I was rambling along about Poggerino and Piero and Benedetta and the first time I met them. So let me tell you that story while we let the wine open up in the glass. So it was 1998. I had been working in wine retail for a few years by then. I think I started in 1996, maybe, something like that. So a couple of years. And I discovered Italian wine through some wines that Michael and Virginia were bringing into the country. And Poggerino Chianti Classico was one of the first Chiantis that I ever tasted. Michael and Virginia offered an Italian wine course in those days at the George in St Kilda. A lot of you will remember that awesome venue. And I went and studied Italian wine with Mr Trembath and Ms Taylor, and it was a 4-week course, and it was so inspirational to me. I just fell in love with the whole concept. And at the end of the course, Michael said, "Oh, by the way, we always go." Oh, hello, Kieran. Lovely to see you. You made it. Yes. So at the end of the course, Michael said, oh, by the way, we go to Italy every year in April. There's this wine show. It's called Vinitaly. If anyone wants to go, you're very welcome to join us. You'll have to pay your own way, but there's lots of events and we'll get you into some amazing tastings and it'll be incredible. And at that stage, I really wasn't intending to stay in the wine industry, even though I'd kind of got stuck there for a couple of years. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do. And I thought, I was going to go backpacking a few years ago after, and then I got this job and started enjoying it and things. And I really wanted to go back to Italy. And I thought, how cool would it be to go back to Italy, where I'd been once before backpacking on, I think I was on like $20 a day or something. And that most of that went for the youth hostel that we were staying in. So didn't have a lot of money to spend on food and wine. Wanted to go back and check out the food and wine scene. So I did. And I joined them a week into their trip because I couldn't afford the whole trip because it was quite an extravaganza. And so they stayed in Tuscany for a week, and I met them in Tuscany on their last night. And they were staying at this beautiful village farmhouse place, and there was nowhere for me to sleep. So Michael and Virginia had organised for me to stay at Poggerino with the Lanza family. So I turned up and they welcomed me. Welcome, Kate. Hello, Sam. How are you? Very nice to see all the Cross family here. So I turned up, and of course, everyone was going to Vinitaly in Verona the next day, and they were getting their samples ready to go. So they said, oh, okay, before we have dinner, can you come and help us do some labelling? So we went and did some hand labelling of the bottles and putting these this little strip on here and the little cockerel on there. The little cockerel means that they're part of the Consorzio of Chianti Classico, which is a group that upholds certain level of quality and tradition in Chianti. And they pay and they have to fulfill certain requirements to get the sticker with the cockerel on it. But this is their DOCG sticker. And when you are in a traditional region in Italy that has a DOC or a DOCG, it means Denominazione d'Origine Controllata e Garantita. So it's a denomination of the controlled and of the origin. So it's an origin wine that has the tradition of the origin, and it's controlled, and it's guaranteed that it will be a typical wine of that region. And they get these little stickers. They have to apply to the official office and say, okay, I've made 1,522 bottles of Chianti Classico this year. Here's a bottle for you to taste to make sure that it's okay. They taste it. They say, tick, yes, that's garantita, that it's good. Okay. Very good, Sam. I like the fact that the twins have taken over Sam's iPad. So that's excellent. I hope they share the wine and the iPad with you for the rest of the session. So these little stickers, you only get, once they've guaranteed it and you've told them how many bottles you've made, then you only get the right number of stickers per bottle. So my job was to stick these stickers onto the necks of the bottle. They said, just be careful, Kate, that you don't tear any or ruin any, stick them on in the right way, just one per bottle, because if you waste one, then that's a bottle of wine we can't sell. So no pressure there at all. That was how my friendship with Piero and Benedetta started. I sadly don't get to see them as often as I'd like to, but they are beautiful people. They're brother and sister. They inherited the property, the little, Poggerino means little hill. They inherited the property from their mother, and they've planted this amazing vineyard. It's mostly Sangiovese. So yes, Alison, Chianti is made almost 100% from Sangiovese grape variety. Traditionally, it's supposed to have a couple of percent of something else blended into it, but that now they've changed the rules in the last, well, it's probably in the last 10 years actually, because, you know, it's since I've been studying these things, but it feels like just the other day. They changed the rules. So Chianti Classico can be 100% Sangiovese or predominantly Sangiovese with a couple of percentages of Merlot or Cabernet or Shiraz, and there are some other local varieties that can also be used for blending. Poggerino is, I believe these days, and now this is when I'm hoping that someone from Poggerino or from Trembath and Taylor are going to be able to join. I know that in the vineyard they have predominantly Sangiovese with a little bit of Merlot, and I think that the Chianti Classico is either 100% Sangiovese or almost 100% Sangiovese with a tiny bit of Merlot in it. Whatever. It's just a really beautiful description of Sangiovese from this part of the world. Piero is the grape grower and winemaker. Benedetta is the marketing side of the business, and she also runs their agriturismo, which is a farm stay, very high end farm stay. Quality place to stay. You can do a winery tour, and they've got it's completely idyllic. So very, very beautiful. Jeff, can you ask me that question again in about 20 minutes? I can get to the Super Tuscan answer about then. I'm going to talk to you about Poggerino first. So hi, hello, Penny. I think I didn't say hello to you before, but anyway, hello, lovely to see you. So I've been drinking and enjoying Poggerino Chianti Classico since the late 1990s. And I try and buy it every year because I think that it's one of the most consistent wines. I love what Piero does. He's very careful in the vineyard to do everything perfectly so that he has perfect fruit to make into beautiful wine. He's organic. I don't think he's biodynamic, but there's a few stamps on the back of the label. He's very interested in biodynamic ideas. And when we went back there, I took mum and dad and the family back there, and the olds as well, Christy and Chris. I think Chris joined us partway through our Tuscan visit, oh, Michael. Ah, beautiful. I agree. That's a very good descriptor. Let me read it out so that people who aren't reading the chat can hear. Michael says, I love this wine. So integrated, smooth, complex, fruit-driven, light but clear tannins. A starry Italian night with music and dogs barking in the distance. I agree. I took the family back here about 10 years after that. And Dad and Piero, we all stomped around in the field. It was quite wet. The soil was in exquisite condition, and we stomped around and looked at all of the stuff. And we finally got to taste. Thank you, Chris. I'm old enough and ugly enough to be able to admit that. And Dad and Piero spent lovely time talking about his organics and the beliefs that he had about running his vineyard. And really, I think that what it all comes down to, the way I summarize it, is that if you spend that time and love the vineyard and get that right and pick the grapes at the right time, then it's very easy to make beautiful wine from those grapes. It's that work that's done in the vineyard. And in fact, Poggerino had to, before they planted their vines, they had to dynamite the vineyard because the soil has got this very hard layer of rock in the subsoil. Once it hits the air, it starts to crumble and disintegrate. But when it's underground, it's very, very hard, and the only way you can do it is with dynamite. So it's quite a difficult vineyard to get established and to plant. But nowadays, it's just stunning and very mature. And just like the rest of us, it's grown up. It's grown up a little bit since we first discovered it. Okay, now questions before I continue. Penny, we don't sell this wine. I could probably get some for people if they wanted to buy it as a result of this tasting. Maybe we'll do a little offer. But you can buy this wine from a number of retailers. There you go, Richard. A number of retailers in Melbourne. I know that the Prince Wine Store always sells the wine, but I'm sure there are plenty of others as well. But yeah, we can organise some wine for you to be sent out from Moorooduc as well. That's easy. Jeff, isn't that Italy's only invention? What? Jeff and Craig, you can continue having your little private conversation. I came in halfway through, so I don't quite understand. Craig, what's your short answer? Oh God, I'm missing things. Super Tuscan. Oh, good. Right. Okay. Gotcha. God. Okay. So I agree, Michael and Nikki. This one, I tried to actually remember to bring some photos from my time in Tuscany as well. We all look a lot younger in the photos, so maybe it's not the way to go. But seriously, if we do ever get out into the world and I get a chance to organise a Drinks with Kate trip, then I think Tuscany would be a really good place to go. Quite a lot of northern Italy. I don't know southern Italy as well. Northern Italy, France, maybe a little bit of Spain. These are the places that I think we can absolutely do. All right, let us talk about this beautiful wine. So one of the things that I really love about this wine, someone's texting me. Angela's texting me. Optus is texting me to tell me that I need to pay my bill. Optus, don't you know I'm busy? Oh, that looks nice, Angela. Delicious. So this wine, it's opening up really nicely in the glass now. So I think I've said to you before, but I will say to you again, Italian wine needs food and Italian food needs wine. They're very, very, very closely linked. So if you've got some food, which hopefully you do, I would suggest that you have a sip of the wine and then have a bite of the food and see how it changes the wine. Because the wine on its own, I think, is beautiful, delicious, wonderful. It's even better with food. So Sangiovese from this part of the world has this beautiful red cherry fruit character on the nose. Shell, these wines make friends with garlic very easily. It just takes them a little while. It is great, isn't it, Michael and Nikki? I think I was just talking to Michael Trembath, who imports the wine, yesterday, just kind of checking in and stuff. And we happened to be on a Zoom call together, so we caught up afterwards. And he agrees. He thinks it's one of the best that they've made. So beautiful red cherry fruit. It's almost like a maraschino cherry on the nose. But the other thing that I love about Chianti Classico in general, but Poggerino in particular, is that it's got this really lovely, it's got this kind of meat juices kind of an aroma to it. Sangiovese translates as the blood of Jove, and I think it tends to make wine that's sort of blood coloured, but also has a slight kind of rare meat kind of aromatic to it as well, which is why it's so great with a bit of Tuscan pork or a bit of fennel sausage. Oh, that sounds very good, Deb. Bit of steak, as described in my email on Monday. It's very meat friendly, this sort of wine. It's got really good acid, really good tannins, but also the fruit flavours are they're intense, but they're quite savoury. Let me have another sip. The other thing, it just gets all your salivary glands going when you put it in your mouth. If you're not eating food by now, you better have some, because as soon as I put it in my mouth just goes, oh, give me some food. So I'm just going to have a little bit of salami just to keep me going. That pork, that meaty, beefy, porky deliciousness works so well. There's very salty salami, which also salt's great with salty food. If you've ever been to Tuscany and just tasted the bread, they never salt the bread, and it's really weird on its own. It's because everything else is salted heavily, meat particularly, and so the bread doesn't need salt, and the Italians always use bread to kind of help make the food, and the wine also helps with the salt. So, yeah. So, Michael, do they make a Reserva, and is it much better? This will come into, so let me answer the question about Reserva and about Super Tuscans at the same time, because they're sort of related. So, first of all, Michael, the Reserva is often very, very good. I personally prefer the Chianti Classico because for me, it has an immediate deliciousness to it. Whereas the Reserva, because it's got sort of it's got heavier fruit, but it's also got more oak to it. So it's a more structured wine. And I actually prefer less oak with Sangiovese. I think Sangiovese is a grape variety that's quite delicate. When you blend too much of something else in with it, or if you give it too much new oak, then it tends to get swamped. And yes, it can be very delicious, but I really love that purity of this wine. So the Reserva is very, very good. It's more, it has a depth and weight to it that is different from this wine. And I think some people would say that it is better. I think it's a very impressive wine, but I buy and drink the Poggerino Chianti Classico on a regular basis, and I enjoy the Reserva from time to time. It's quite a lot more expensive, which might also be the reason that I drink the Chianti Classico. But and that brings me to the story of the Super Tuscans. So these days, a lot of people understand Sangiovese as a grape variety in the world and will go, that's a good Sangiovese. That's a very good example of a Sangiovese. That's an example of a lesser Sangiovese over there. We can tell the difference. But back in the late 70s, early 80s, when Tuscany was really trying to kind of make a big burst out onto the international export wine scene, people didn't know about Sangiovese, didn't understand it, tended to find it to be a little acidic and tannic, didn't have the flavours that they expected from a great wine. And what I'm talking about a great wine is most people understood, and I'm talking about the English market and the American market basically, because within Italy, Italians drink very close to home. You don't tend to get big wine collectors who buy wine from other parts of Italy very often. So most Italians will drink wine that's from close from home. And a lot of Italians will say, oh, my father makes the best wine because it's what I'm used to. It's what I always drink. Oh, pleasure, Jeff. I agree with you, Alison, about salt in the bread. I thought so too, but when you go to Tuscany, you're quite pleased not to have salt in the bread because you never eat the bread by itself. You're always sopping it in the juices or having it with some meat on it or whatever, and that salt in everything else salts the bread. What came first, the Italian food that matches the wine or the wine with matching Italian food? So, Craig, this is the whole point, that wine in Italy has been part of the Italian table for forever. Well, not forever, but for a very long time. I mean, if you think about the ancient Italians, the ancient Romans, who travelled from Rome all across Italy and up through Europe and up into the UK, they borrowed grape growing and winemaking from the Greeks. And so that history has been in that country forever. And so the food and the wine has grown up together. Every little region of Italy is different, and it's partly because of the geography of Italy. Italy is a long, narrow, boot-shaped country, and there's a big mountain range that runs right down the middle. So from east to west, it's quite difficult to travel from east to west in Italy without going a long way north or a long way south. So those two sides of the coast of Italy are kept separate by those mountain ranges. But also the borders of the regions are very distinct because they used to be different countries. So each region within Italy has its own food and its own wine tradition. And so Tuscany is completely different from Piemonte. You'll go to Piemonte and you'll eat out at a number of different restaurants and you'll drink a number of different wines, and the wines will all be Nebbiolo or Barbera or Dolcetto or Moscato, and they will be the wines that you drink, and they will go with the local traditional foods. And you'll often have almost the same menu at, say, 5 different restaurants that you go to. They're all slightly different, but it's the same things. So panna cotta, for example, is a very classically traditional Piemontese dessert. You'll eat it for every dinner that you have in Piemonte. As soon as you leave Piemonte, you don't eat panna cotta anymore because you'd only be able to buy panna cotta at sort of an international restaurant that didn't know how to do it properly anyway. Within Italy, Tuscany is the same. Tuscany is all about Sangiovese, Chianti Classico in this part of Tuscany, which is sort of between Florence and Siena, that sort of region around there is Chianti Classico, and then you've got the broader Chianti region that kind of spills out from there. And then further south, you've got Brunello and Brunello de Montalcino and Vino Nobile de Montepulciano, which is also Sangiovese, but a different clone of Sangiovese, quite different wines. That's another story for another day. Super Tuscans are wines that were made sort of illegally outside of the DOCG rules in the 1970s, early 80s. They were made from Cabernet-based wines, Cabernet, Cabernet Merlot. Some had a little bit of Sangiovese in them. They got released into the UK and the US market at about the same time. They weren't sold in Italy straight away. And they were released back in the early 80s for $80 a bottle, which was outrageously expensive for anything from that part of the world. And they were labelled as vino da tavola, which means table wine. They got coined as Super Tuscans, so they're non-traditional high-end Tuscan wines. They changed all the rules in Tuscany, and now they come under the IGT system, which is the sort of non-traditional high-quality system that kind of encompasses that, so that the Italians can keep control of it. And they're still made, and they're still expensive, and they're still highly regarded. But it also means that the producers of Super Tuscans could say, well, here's what we can do with Cabernet and Merlot. And people went, wow, that's amazing. Those wines are terrific. And then they could say, and this is their equivalent in Sangiovese. This is what Sangiovese is supposed to taste like. And this is high quality Sangiovese. I've shown you that I can make really good quality wine from grape varieties that you're used to. Here's a really good quality wine from a grape variety that you should get used to because it's delicious. And that's where the whole sort of modern Chianti Classico Sangiovese story began. And then you've got lots of lovely young, I say young, Piero's probably about my age, so very young, but people who started young, really passionate winemakers who just wanted to make delicious wines. Chianti, yes, Angela, Chianti was the wine in the basket. And there's been huge changes made after the whole Super Tuscan thing, or at about the same time, and then kind of following on from that. A lot of Chianti producers looked at their vineyards and said, oh, we haven't got great great vine material here. So they did a lot of work on the different clones and which clones were going to produce better quality wines and which were making sort of lighter, thinner, less exciting wines. And a lot of the vineyards got revamped. And that's when your little Black Rooster came into the scene as well, because they were saying, well, this isn't just any old Chianti, this is really good Chianti, and we're going to join the Black Rooster gang because they're the ones who are trying to increase the quality and increase the value of Chianti. So the little straw baskets in Tuscany, and you can still buy them if you go to Tuscany, you go to a tourist shop or a wine shop in the middle of Florence, you can still buy crappy Chianti in a straw covered basket, and it won't taste anything like this. It'll be thin, it'll be light, it'll be very acidic. It'll wash your pizza down all right, and it'll make a nice candle holder afterwards. But the modern Chianti comes in a Bordeaux-shaped bottle like this, and is made by passionate, enthusiastic, grape and wine-loving people who really want to show off the best of what they can do. And that's the thing that makes me really excited about Chianti. Angela, that's correct. Lasagna is not really Tuscan, but it's from probably from Bologna, because the Bolognese sauce comes from Bologna. But pasta and meat sauce in various different iterations pops up in most places in Italy. So I think lasagna is a pretty safe bet, particularly if it's a tomatoey, meaty sauce to go with the pasta. Works really well with this. But also, as I said before, grilled beefsteak fiorentina, beefsteak maltagliata, those kind of things. A nice piece of beef from a good cow works very, very well with this wine. What else? It's so interesting how regionalised Europe is. I know, Alison, and that's the cool thing. And even though Europe is now sort of trying to be one big nation, I remember when I first started traveling in Europe that all the different countries had their own currency. So you're in France, you've got your francs, and in Italy, you've got your liras. You're always very, very wealthy with your lira because you had lots and lots of lira that weren't worth very much at all. But I think it's really good to just remind ourselves of the history of Europe, because the character of the wines in different countries and the wine and food and the way the wine is evolving in a modern international sense has got so much to do with the recent politics and the recent history of countries in Europe. And I'm talking about sort of since the First World War, really, and moving forward, because there's been lots of changes during that time. I mean, there's been the longer history of Europe is absolutely fascinating, but if you just look at what's happened since the First World War, it's changed so many countries and their food and wine culture as a result, and the politics as they kind of change through the countries as well. So, and also for different countries trying to sell their wine on an international market and having to understand what the international palate's like, and trying to get the international palate to understand what their particular wine style is like. So yeah, it's all pretty interesting. Shell, I'm glad to hear that the wine is working very well with your lasagna. Alison, you haven't tasted your lasagna yet? Lasagna's from Napoli. Thank you, Emily. And Kevin, very good. Well, that's another thing that, if a lot of people say, and I've never been to Naples, so that's somewhere that I would love to go, but Italians all say the further south you go, the better the pizza, the coffee, and the, well, they often say the tomato pasta, but mostly pizza and coffee, the better they get, the further south you get till you get to Naples, and it's just amazing. Yeah, I reckon, Peter and Karen, that's pretty interesting. What's Jeff been saying? Jeff, beetroot. Jeff, you've just proven that you're not a real Australian not having beetroot in your burger. Isn't that right, Craig? Anyway, we can absolutely someday talk about the different wine bottles. Cotty and John. This bottle, I really like this bottle. And also, there's a new push in recent years to embrace lighter wine bottles. So you'll find more and more people. I mean, this is quite a nice light bottle. And it's all about the quality of the wine that's in the bottle rather than spending a lot of money on glass. It's better for the environment. It's better for being able to spend more money on making the wine rather than paying for the packaging, which is all good. Kieran, you also are not a good Australian, but we knew that anyway. Beetroot in a burger, absolutely. Beetroot in a burger in Australia is a classic. And it's one way of checking to see whether people are real Australians or not, to that question that Craig asked. Oh gosh, Craig, I'm going to leave you guys to talk about pickles and not pickles. So as this wine opens up and as you have it with food, that cherry fruit comes out more. It's sort of a bitter cherry. It's a red cherry. It's a Morello cherry. There's a little dusty. Yes, and also country Australians often will have an egg on their burger. Some people will also have pineapple in their burger, but I draw a line at that. So let's talk about Chianti. How long would you keep such a Chianti? Michael and Nikki, that's a great question. I've just been rummaging around in the bottom of my cellar at Moorooduc, and I've got some quite old ones, and I don't know whether they'll be any good or not, but I'm going to open them, and I've got a reserva from about 20 years ago. So Piero, if you're watching, I'll send you the list of what I got. You can tell me whether they're worth opening. Oh, g'day, Barry. How you going? Okay. Sid, sorry, I didn't answer your question before. No, as far as I know, there is no Sangiovese being grown on the Mornington Peninsula. It's not warm enough here to grow Sangiovese well. But also, and I might be a bit behind on my knowledge about this, but until fairly recently, most of the Sangiovese clones that have been brought into Australia are not that great. So I'm hoping that maybe that's changed in recent years. I'll be able to report back and hope, well, maybe, I don't know why I'm talking about plans that I've got made for the rest of the year, but I'm supposed to be going up to Mildura to judge at the alternative grape variety wine show. And I think that Sangiovese still gets a Guernsey in there. So I'll be able to answer your question as well, Craig, after that. I think there are some quite nice Sangioveses being made in Australia, but not to this quality, not to this level, I don't think, because we just don't have the right clones here yet. And maybe it's been grown a lot in central Victoria, in the Alpine Valley and around there. If you think of the Pizzinis and the Dal Zottos, they grow it. There's some Panton Estate in Red Hill grows it for their rosé that Quealy makes. Okay. I would say Renee. Sorry, that would be Nigel. I would say Nigel that that would be made into rosé because it's not good enough to make into a dry red wine. But I don't know anything about that wine, so I shall leave that there. Pizzini do very well in the King Valley. There's a couple of good producers who are growing Sangiovese also in the Adelaide Hills. There's some interesting stuff around, but I'm a bit naughty. I'm a bit of an Italian wine snob, and there's a handful of people who are playing around with Nebbiolo and doing a pretty good job in Australia, and a few other things. I haven't really found any Sangiovese from Australia that I've been really excited by, because people tend to either over oak them or acid adjust them or add extra tannin because they haven't really done enough research into what Sangiovese naturally looks like, and then they kind of boost it with winemaking, which is not what Italians tend to do. So anyway, there's lots of potential for more good Sangiovese in Australia, but I think that I'll be continuing to drink wines from my beautiful friends, my beautiful, gorgeous friends in Tuscany. And I would like to, hopefully one day, if they're not watching now, one day they'll see this. And I'd just like to say, ciao Piero, Benedetta, thank you so much for this beautiful wine. Keep doing a great job. It's awesome, and we're all very excited. Coriol does make a nice Sangiovese in McLaren Vale, Emily. Yeah. So there's a few people who are doing it, but sometimes it's nice to go overseas. But yeah, I'll report back from the alternative wine show as well. What's the next wine? It's look. I'm so glad that you've enjoyed the trip back to Tuscany. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it a little bit more in future. I like the guest wine section as well, so we'll have to think about what guest wine we have next box, because we're coming towards the end of this box. We've got, I think, 2 more wines left. I think we have a Pinot Gris for next week, don't we, Jeff? I think it's the Pinot Gris. Let me have a look. Moorooduc. I really should prepare this ahead of time, shouldn't I? You'll be pleased to know that the hoodies orders are confirmed and in. I don't think we'll be getting them for a little while, but they'll be here with us soon, eventually, one day, maybe. Okay, Poggerino Chianti, Devil Bend Creek, Pinot Gris and chocolate. We're going to do a wine and chocolate tasting next week. So I will send instructions on Monday about what you need to get in. Craig, we can certainly do a Rioja. I was also we can definitely go to Spain, Michael. I think that would be great. I'd also like to take you to various parts of France sometime in future. And we also need to have some guest wines from some local producers too. So lots of fun to look forward to. So 2019, Devil Bend Creek, Pinot Gris next week, and chocolate. So that'll be fun. Thank you, everyone. Off to Sicily tomorrow night. Oh, good on you, Anne. That sounds great. That's great. Who do we know in Spain? I know lots of people in Spain. Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about that. Thank you, everyone. I will have a lovely birthday on Saturday. I encourage you all to have a lovely glass of wine or champagne in my honour on Saturday. We can do something in lockdown. So, and we will see you all again next week. Thanks, everyone. Zach and Jack, I'm so glad that that's given you some more confidence. We can also do a little Italian wine course sometime down the track. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Hunter Valley, Chris. Yeah, that sounds good. We'll have a guest Hunter Valley wine. So many options, so much potential. It's a good thing that we like coming back and meeting each other every Thursday. Ciao, everyone. Buonasera.